The road was empty except for my headlights stretching across the black asphalt. I had been driving for almost 3 hours, trying to reach my cousin's place before midnight. The highway cut through miles of forest, and the deeper I drove, the quieter everything became. No gas stations, no houses, not even another car. Just darkness. The radio suddenly filled with static. I tapped it twice, but the noise only grew louder. Then, for a brief second, I heard a voice hidden inside the static. It sounded distant and distorted, like someone whispering through water. "Turn back." I frowned and turned the volume down. It was probably just a bad signal, but a strange chill crept through my chest. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Nothing. Just darkness behind me. A few minutes later, the road curved sharply through the forest. My headlights caught something standing on the shoulder.
A man.
He was tall and thin, wearing what looked like an old coat. His head hung slightly forward, and his arms rested stiffly at his sides. As I slowed down, I realized something unsettling. He wasn't moving at all. Not even a little. Most people would wave or try to get attention if they needed help. But this man simply stood there like a statue. My instincts told me to keep driving, so I pressed the gas and passed him. As my car moved forward, I glanced into the side mirror. The man was still there, but now he was facing my car. I swear he hadn't moved when I passed him. My heart started beating faster. I kept driving, trying to shake the strange feeling growing inside me. 10 minutes later, I saw headlights in the distance behind me. Relief washed over me because I finally wasn't alone on the road. But the car behind me didn't pass. It stayed at the same distance. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. The headlights remained exactly the same distance behind me, no matter how fast I drove. I pressed the accelerator harder. My car reached almost 90 kilometers per hour, but the lights followed without changing distance. Then something strange happened. The headlights suddenly turned off. The road behind me became completely dark. I slowed down, confused. Maybe the driver had turned onto another road. But when I looked in the rearview mirror again, my stomach dropped. The car was still there. I could see its shape in the faint glow of my taillights. And in the driver's seat, someone was staring directly at me. But the headlights were still off. I felt my hands shaking on the steering wheel. That car shouldn't have been able to drive in complete darkness. Then the radio crackled again. The same distorted voice whispered through the static. "He's still behind you." My breath caught in my throat. I slammed the accelerator and sped down the highway. The trees blurred past my windows. I didn't care about speed limits anymore. I just wanted to reach the next town. After a few terrifying minutes, I finally saw lights in the distance. A small gas station stood beside the road. I pulled in quickly and jumped out of the car. The moment I stepped onto the pavement, I turned around to see if the other car had followed me. The highway was empty. No headlights. No car. Nothing at all. I stood there breathing heavily, trying to calm down. Maybe exhaustion had made me imagine things. But when I walked back toward my car, I froze. Written in the dust on my trunk were 3 words. "I'm still here." The next story happened to a woman named Laura who was driving home from a late shift at the hospital. It was around 2 in the morning, and the city streets were nearly empty. She took a shortcut through a rural road she had used many times before. The road cut between open fields and small patches of forest. Normally, it was peaceful, but that night felt different. The sky was covered in clouds, and there was no moonlight at all. Her headlights were the only light on the road. About halfway through the shortcut, she noticed something strange ahead. A child was standing in the middle of the road. Laura immediately slowed down. The child appeared to be a little girl wearing a pale dress. Her long dark hair covered most of her face. Laura stopped the car several meters away. "Hey," she called through the open window. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't move.
She didn't respond.
She just stood there with her head lowered. Laura felt uneasy, but she also couldn't leave a child alone in the middle of the road. She turned on the hazard lights and stepped out of the car. "Are you lost?" she asked gently as she approached. The girl slowly lifted her head. Laura felt her blood run cold. The child's eyes were completely black. Not dark brown. Not shadowed. completely black. Laura stumbled backward in shock. Before she could react, the girl spoke in a quiet voice. "You shouldn't be here." Laura ran back to her car and slammed the door shut. Her hands trembled as she started the engine. But when she looked up, the girl was gone. Laura locked all the doors and began driving again, as fast as she could. Her heart pounded against her ribs as the road stretched endlessly ahead. Then she heard something from the back seat. A faint scratching sound. Slow, deliberate. Laura's stomach tightened. She was certain no one had been in the car when she left the hospital. The scratching grew louder. She slowly looked into the rear-view mirror. At first she saw nothing. Then two small black eyes appeared in the darkness of the back seat. The little girl was crouched behind her.
Smiling.
Laura screamed and slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the empty road. She turned around instantly. The back seat was empty. Completely empty. The scratching stopped. Laura sat there shaking, trying to understand what had just happened. Finally, she forced herself to keep driving. When she reached her house, she rushed inside and locked every door. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she went outside to her car. And that's when she noticed something horrifying. Tiny handprints covered the inside of the rear window.
Dozens of them.
The final story comes from a truck driver named Mark who regularly drove through long highways during night shifts. One winter night, he was transporting cargo across a deserted mountain road. Snow covered the landscape, and thick fog made visibility extremely poor. Mark had been driving for hours without seeing another vehicle. Suddenly, he noticed someone standing beside the road. A woman. She wore a thin white dress despite the freezing weather. Her hair hung loosely over her shoulders, and she appeared to be shivering. Mark slowed the truck and rolled down the window. "Do you need help?" he asked. The woman nodded slowly. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Can you give me a ride?" Mark hesitated for a moment, but eventually unlocked the passenger door. She climbed inside and closed it quietly. As the truck continued down the mountain road, Mark noticed something odd. The woman never looked at him. She kept staring straight ahead. Minutes passed in silence. Then Mark realized something even stranger. He couldn't see her reflection in the windshield. He glanced sideways. She was sitting there, but in the reflection, the seat looked empty. A cold wave of fear moved through his body. "Where are you going?" he asked nervously. The woman slowly turned her head toward him. Her face was pale, unnaturally pale. "Home," she whispered. Mark forced a nervous laugh. "Where's that?" The woman lifted one thin finger and pointed ahead through the fog. Mark looked toward the road, and suddenly his heart nearly stopped. The road ahead had collapsed. A massive section of the mountain path had fallen into a deep ravine. If he had continued driving at full speed, the truck would have gone straight off the edge. Mark slammed the brakes. The truck screeched to a stop just meters from the broken road. He sat there breathing heavily, realizing how close he had come to dying. "Thank you," he said, turning toward the woman. But the passenger seat was empty. The door was still locked. No footprints. No sound. Nothing. Mark stepped out of the truck slowly, staring at the fog-covered road. That's when he noticed something in the snow beside the truck. A single set of footprints. They led away from the passenger door and disappeared at the edge of the cliff. To this day, Mark believes the woman saved his life. But he still wonders one thing. If she wasn't alive, then who had been sitting in his truck that night? The stories of that road still circulate among night drivers who travel those lonely highways. Some say the forest holds things that only appear after midnight, when the world becomes quiet enough to hear them. A few drivers claim their radios sometimes whisper strange warnings through the static. Others say they've seen figures standing beside the road that vanish the moment headlights pass. Most people laugh it off as imagination or exhaustion. But those who experienced it never forget the feeling of being watched in the darkness. And if you ever find yourself driving alone at night, pay attention to the mirrors. Sometimes the road behind you isn't as empty as it seems. Automobile Crescent Moon. Even now, some travelers refuse to drive that road after midnight. Truckers share quiet warnings at roadside diners, telling each other to keep the doors locked and never stop for strangers standing alone in the dark. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing on a night drive isn't what you see ahead, but what might already be sitting behind you.